Welcome to Connected Conversations for Creatives. I'm your host, Jennifer Carr, and joining me today is author and investigative storyteller, Pepper Ann. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here and thank you for inviting me.
Absolutely. Your book, The Notorious Texas Swindler, the mastermind behind the Grayson County Five, is a true story about your cousin, Bob Harold Leach, and his foray into crime, ranging from being a con man to a cattle rustler, going to prison, escaping from prison, and then finally engaging in a shootout with law enforcement as his final hurrah before landing in prison, right? Where he's serving multiple life sentences. Did I get that right?
Yes. He's serving 14
Oh my
multiple
gosh.
life sentences. And the funny part about it, well, I don't know, maybe not for him, um, but for for everybody else, the life sentences that he's serving, it has to do with all the charges from when he escaped jail a second time. He escaped jail twice in his life. Yeah. So all those charges are tied to that, and the charges for cattle rustling and all the other crimes that he committed prior to the second jail escape. They're not. He hasn't been sentenced to any of those, if that makes sense. They got
That
him
is
on the 14
wild.
life sentences. Don't let him out. He's there. So we're good.
Oh my gosh. Well, let me tell you, I am normally one that shies away from true crime because it's sometimes just a little stressful when my brain realizes just how real life can be. But I knew the moment, like that first page, I read it and I was like, I am sucked in. Like, this is a story that I needed to read. I felt like I was practically experiencing Bob's story with him. Like, it was, first of all, you're a fantastic writer. Like, let me just put that out there right now. And
Thank
secondly,
you.
like, you're a fantastic storyteller on top of that.
Thank you. What a compliment. I worked really hard. I had to rewrite the story so many times because the people I was exposing deleted my work. But thank you. That is a compliment. I appreciate that. Thank
Well,
you so
definitely,
much.
definitely. And I know from our conversations, kind of off the air through our emails and all that stuff, and through your website and your book, which, by the way, her book and her website will be listed in the show notes when the show airs. I know through all of that, you faced a lot of adversity when you were writing this book. So tell us some of the things that you faced and how long it took you to finally get the last page written and published.
Okay, well, when I first took on this project, I did not know that I was related to Bob. He didn't know about me either. We had no idea the other one existed. We're actually related to each other by our grandfathers because our grandfathers were brothers. So my mom and Bob's father are first cousins. So then that makes him and I cousins.
Okay.
So when I took on the project, I wasn't sure. I didn't want to write about a cattle rustler. I mean, I didn't think that would make a story. But once I dove into it and I realized all of the corruption that was tied to the story, I had to do it. I had to take it on. So it took me a good 12 years to research and write the story. I interviewed so many people. I interviewed law enforcement, the victims that were, you know, in the story,
Mhm.
family, friends, just a ton of people. So it took me 12 years to write and research the book, but I would have had it out sooner if it hadn't been for the individuals I was exposing, hacking into that computer and deleting my work. And so I had to rewrite it 3 times. And in the middle of it all, I had people threatening me and my family. They were loosening the lug nuts on our vehicles, on our tires. And I don't know. I told my family, I said, that's it. I can't do this anymore. And they said, yes, you have to, because I was exposing a very large scandal in the state of Texas nobody knew about. So 12 years.
Man, 12 years of adversity while trying to get a book written, facing threats, just the constant fear and stress of having to like watch your back all the time,
Yes.
while raising a family. That is wild. And you persevered and you pushed through and found yourself with a finished product that, one, you should be proud of, like be proud of it, right? And also with some experiences that most of us could never even imagine having, like that's I can't imagine just all of a sudden having a story idea strike me and be like, I'm going to look into this. The next thing you know, it's resulting in like threats that, like, I can't imagine. So tell us how you managed to accomplish all of this just while maintaining family life and your sanity. You're self-published, which what is a full-time job in and of itself. So add that into the mix. Just tell us how you kind of did all of it.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you. I have said from day one that it takes more than an author to write the story. I
Mm.
have a lot of people who have been a part of this. I have an editor who was with me from the very beginning. He's still there. He's a good friend. My family and my friends have been right there the whole time encouraging. I have an amazing PA, Laura, and if it hadn't been for her, this book would not be, it probably wouldn't be out there because I didn't know the first step in doing the social media sites. And I mean, I
Mhm.
didn't know any of that. And then getting it to the printer and getting it published. So,
Mhm.
so I do want to say up front that I didn't do this by myself. There are a lot of people I have to mention. But what I did do when I would research everything, I found that I was making trips. I was constantly traveling because the story is older, so there's a lot of stuff that I couldn't find online that
Mhm.
required me to travel and talk to people and meet with them. So I think it was a combination of writing it old style. I say old style because I had to go and dig through papers and do this all on my on my own.
Mhm.
And so it was a combination of that and then having the people around me who were constantly there. It was friends, it was family, it was even strangers. Strangers. I'd get frustrated and I'd say, I just don't know. This is going to be the second time I'm having to rewrite this. I don't think I can do it. And they hear it and they'd say, you have to keep going.
Mm. Mm.
So I think it's important when authors tell you how they write a story, it's important to remember the people along the way because there
Yes.
are a lot of people that boost us and help us.
Yes.
It takes
Absolutely.
more than one person to get the story out there. It just does.
Absolutely. And we as authors, we have the story inside of us and we want to put it out there on paper, but it can become a lonely journey, especially if you don't surround yourself with other people. And that's something that I've had to learn. I am a very self-reliant person in life in general. Like I like to rely on myself because I know what I like done and how I like doing it. And and you have to understand that self-publishing is not something that you can do as a solo act. I mean, you can. It's easier if you don't, because sometimes you do get discouraged just writing that sort. Like even I didn't have to rewrite my entire book, but just doing edits alone, like that's stressful in and of itself. And so to have somebody say, like for instance, my biggest, and I have said this so many times on here, like my biggest cheerleader is my husband. Like he is my rah rah man. He is always there, and he's like, what can I do to make your life easier this week while you're doing the edits? Like what can I take off your plate so you don't have to try to do everything, because you can't. And so yeah, it is so important who you surround yourself with. Did you ever find um, that you had to set some pretty strict boundaries within that network that you created of people in your community?
At times I did. At times I did. There were a lot of people who would they well so this is something else. When you're writing, I notice for myself, a lot of people want to know when is your book coming out? When are you going to be done? And they're trying to, I felt like they were setting unrealistic goals,
Mm.
my family. When is it going to be out? And I'd set a goal and I wouldn't come anywhere close to it. So I had to set boundaries. I had to set them down and I had to say, okay, here's what's going on. I'm not going to just put something out there because it sounds good. So this is something else. I had to verify everything multiple times because it's true crime, and I wanted to make sure everything was accurate. Now, I
Mhm.
use police reports, I use witness victims and witness statements, but I mean, I really dug into it. So it's more than just writing.
Mhm.
It's making sure you were covering your back. So I had to tell these people, you're gonna have to back off and let me write. And they
I
were just stopping at the bit,
Yes.
you know.
And that's flattering, right? They're like they can't wait to read what you wrote, but at the same time, it's like I already have really high expectations for myself. Like, let's not put any more pressure on me, please.
Exactly. That's
Yeah.
exactly what I went through. And of course, 12 years, I can understand after a while, they're like, okay, it's been so many years. And even
Yeah.
Bob, if I go visit him, because you know, he's incarcerated, I'd go in and he would tell me it's been this long. And he would know to the day. And I think, well, hey, buddy, you're not writing this thing. I am. Just be quiet.
Right.
Tell
Yes,
everybody.
thank you. And it's and then that's another, just thinking expectations in general, like we put them on ourselves sometimes that so big and so heavy. And I can't even imagine the expectation that I would have on myself if I was having to fact check so many things. I write fiction. Mine I will fact check, like if I'm using a city, like for in my first book, it takes place a lot in Washington D.C. And so I made sure that I've been to Washington D.C., but I wanted to verify like where things are. I don't, I have to make sure that I put in street names that are correct and that kind of thing, and without being, oh, the Washington Monument, and assume everybody knows what that is. So I will fact check that, but I can't imagine having to fact check so much information and not have super high expectations for myself. Like that would be a little stressful.
Well, let me tell you something that's probably it's kind of humorous in a way. If you step back, you'll probably understand even more so why I why I why I was constantly double checking. So I mentioned in the second chapter, Bob is is a compulsive liar. So when he would tell me something, I'd take it with a grain of salt. I'd step away and I'd think, I'm going to have to verify this. I can't, so, so I had that on top of everything else. And I thought, this is comedy right here. Not the crimes, but
Right.
what I'm going through is kind of comical because he would tell me something and I'd say, that's not right. And he and I would get into an argument about it at the prison. And I'd say, you're lying. You're a compulsive liar. Did you forget? And then our conversations would go. So yeah, I was constantly checking everything.
It's like talking to a toddler, who ate the last cookie? Well, it wasn't me, as they're covered in chocolate.
Yeah,
It wasn't
that's
me.
right. You're right.
Oh my gosh. So, did you always set out to write investigative true crime, or was that just something that popped into your head one day?
Actually, it was something that just happened when I learned the story about Bob and I started to learn everything behind the story. I realized this is mine and I'm going to do it. But no, before I learned about him or any of it, I'd never considered writing true crime. I love to write, but I guess I always thought I might write fiction. I didn't really have a story, you know?
Mhm.
So it just happened. It's crazy how it just happened.
What a doozy to start with.
I know.
I love it. Okay, so can you tell us about like maybe your first investigative report interview that you did, like the first time you went to ask people questions, like what happened?
Well, I'll tell you, there's two that stick out. So in the shootout, the Forrester family, it was Vincent and Irma, they're the husband and wife who were held hostage in their home. And when I reached out to them, they were the first interview I ever did. It was a telephone interview. And I just felt like I was talking to my own family. They were the most adorable couple. I just fell in love with both of them. I could tell that Irma was the one who she took control inside the house as much as she could. She told Bob, you're going to do this. We need to get out, blah, blah, blah. That lady took control. So my first interview was with that couple. And I ended up becoming very close with that family, the Foresters. Vincent and Irma have since passed, but the rest of the Forester family and I are very close. And we communicate. That was a reason I've been asked many times, what inspired you to tell the story? One, it was Bob saying he's not the only one that should be sitting behind bars. And I wanted to tell everybody's story, Vincent and Irma's and their families. And I felt like I was their voice. So that was my first interview. And it gave me the confidence to keep going. They were amazing. The second interview I did that is very memorable to me was when I went to Comanche County. And Bob had got into trouble in the 80s. He had started rustling cattle for a DPS state trooper. So I went to the courthouse and I got some information. I got some records, which, as I found out once I got about an hour down the road, it was not wise for me to stop an hour down the road. I should have kept going because I was in danger. I had uncovered a recorded, transcribed conversation that was admitted into court, but it was kind of dismissed. And it was a threat against Bob's life. So I had this, and I'd also interviewed other individuals in the area. And they gave me so much information. They made me feel like I was where I was supposed to be. You know how you take on something and you're not sure how you're going to approach it, how it's going to go, and it goes perfectly. And that's how all my interviews went. I got information I never thought I'd get. And each interview I go on, I learn so much more. And I think, well, where is this written at? It was crimes, it was things that were committed that people wanted told. So those first two interviews, boy, they sent me in a wonderful direction. They set me up for.
That's awesome. I mean, because there you could hit, and you probably did hit your fair share of roadblocks. Like, I can't imagine that it was like you probably, besides the threats and the danger of that, but I'm sure you had some doors slammed in your face as well.
I did. I hate to admit this, but so I don't want everybody to think law enforcement overall wasn't helpful, because there were a lot of individuals in law enforcement who did help me, and they provided a lot of information. Some of the individuals in law enforcement, and not all of law enforcement, I want to be specific. The individuals that I'm exposing, it's not certain individuals throughout the whole thing. There's also other criminals with history. So there were some individuals in law enforcement, but there were also some individuals who weren't in law enforcement, and they had a criminal past. But the doors that were slammed in my face, the Texas Rangers, they didn't want to talk to me because I had told them who I was. I had said, I'm related to Bob, and I was very upfront with people. I didn't want to go into it in a deceitful manner. I wanted everyone to know who I was. They wouldn't respond to me. The investigator who oversaw the case of the cattle rustling, he wouldn't respond to me. He wanted his boss to speak to me. There was also a sheriff. I was trying to get information. He wouldn't speak to me. I come to find out the sheriff was covering some stuff up.
Oops.
It's in the book. It's in the book. Yeah. So yeah, I did have some doors closed in my face, but the doors that were closed, I had so many more that were open. So many people helping me. It was amazing.
I love that. And that's how you take a journey. The easiest way to take a journey, right, is to have somebody come along with you. Because what happens when that door gets slammed in your face and you're like, I can't do this anymore, I'm done. You have to have people there to help you stand back up and to go knock on the next door. Like, you have to.
Well, you do. And it was those moments when the doors were slammed in my face that I said, this has taken too long.
Mhm.
I don't know what I'm going to do. And then I had someone who was trying to steal the story from me. So
Mm.
I was trying to beat the clock. I've had so much happen to me, and it's okay. It happened for a reason.
Mhm,
But I
mhm,
felt like every time something came up and a door was slammed in my face, I thought, okay, this
mhm.
isn't
I'm
isn't
done.
exactly.
Mhm.
And then another door that I wasn't even looking at would swing wide open.
Mm.
So I guess I was just being redirected in another direction,
Hey,
you
there is
know?
such thing as divine intervention. I mean, there
Yes,
is.
yes, yes, yes. I tell everybody, I don't know, they may be tired of hearing it, but it's a part of my story. These, well, the before the final time that I had to rewrite the story, I said, I can't, I'm done. I can't do it. So I slammed my laptop down, put it on my ottoman. I was working part-time at a hospital gift shop. And I said, God, do not put this back in front of me. Well, it doesn't matter what we want. It doesn't matter. I went to work and there were three people at three different times who came in and they didn't know why they were in the gift shop, but they felt a need to pray for someone.
Mm.
And they were all craving a Coke. They all wanted a Coke. It was just ironic, but they um they were there for a reason
Mhm.
to encourage me. So I believe divine intervention. I believe it happens. It did to me.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it is sent to protect us, and it is sent to encourage us, and we don't understand it. We can't. That's why it's divine. We don't understand it and can't understand it, but it is there for a reason, and it's part of your story that you can go along and use to encourage somebody else and become part of somebody else's community that may be in the same field and be like, I can't knock on another door. And you're like, yes, you can. You have that personal experience where you can lift somebody up who has faced the same thing you have.
Well, thank you. And I think it's important to know that if sometimes if that happens, you have to step back and look in
Mm-hmm.
another direction. I
Mm-hmm.
realized that several times too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I might not be looking in the right direction. I need to
Yeah.
look somewhere else. And when I looked somewhere else, I uncovered something that I had to put in the book.
Hmm.
It
What a
happens.
coincidence.
I know it happens.
It
And it
does
doesn't matter.
happen.
It's not on our time. It's
That's
not
right.
that. Oh my gosh. I thought, when is this gonna be done? And
Yep.
I'm still, the book's written, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
still working on it. I'm
Sure.
still putting it out there.
So do you think that with all of your follow-up investigations, is there going to be a book two?
Not right now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe someday
Mm-hmm.
if the right people um hop in and decide to take over
Mm.
and do some further investigations on the individuals I exposed. Possibly.
That's fair. That's fair.
I
I mean, that's 12 more years. I mean, good gracious.
oh.
Right? My heart goes out to you just thinking about that.
Oh God. Well, so the thing is, the reason I stuck with this for as long as I did is because one, it's family.
Mhm.
Two, there's a story out there, but it's not the right story. And so I
Mm.
wanted to make sure when I told it, I put all the facts. Yes, Bob is behind bars. He should be behind bars. He committed a lot of crimes. He does not need to be back out. And he'll hear this someday, I'm sure, and he'll get mad, but it's the truth. And have any business being out. But then neither do the other individuals I
Mhm.
exposed.
Mhm.
And my fear is that they're hurting people
Mhm.
that may not realize it now. And
Yeah.
so if there's an opportunity to write a second one, I'm going to have more people on board
Yeah.
with
Some of those
me.
doors are going to have to open back up and
Going to have to be big garage doors. They're going to have to just fling right open.
a little parting of the Red Sea, whatever it takes. Like
Exactly. I don't want no window. Give me some, I don't want a little tiny window. You give me a big door to walk through.
exactly. Hey, I understand that completely. Do you think you'll write anything other than like you're going to write another book of some other sort, maybe?
I am. Actually, I was, pardon me, I was approached by someone else who has a very colorful past. And it's a story based in California. It was in the 70s, and it's of some bank robbers. And so it's true crime. Now, I am excited about writing this because a true crime that I like to focus on is not murder or blood and gore. I
Mhm.
don't know. I don't know how that would probably be hard for me to
Yeah.
approach. But if there's something a little on the lighter side, and I
Mhm.
say that
I get it.
very carefully, if
Mhm.
there's something with a little humor in there while they're breaking the crime, but committing crimes, that's what I want
Yeah,
to write about. So, yeah.
that's exciting. That sounds awesome. So you went self-published this go around. Um, would you do it again?
Yes, I do not want to have a literary agent, and I'll tell you why.
Hmm.
When I reached out to literary agents about my book, they were so supportive. A lot of them don't respond. If they're not
Hmm.
interested, they won't respond.
Hmm.
I had a lot of them tell me it's not my niche.
Mm.
You need to keep going. Find your book where it belongs in the literary world. You need to keep going. You can do this. I mean, I had literary agents tell me that. A lot of them, they don't have time. They just
Hmm.
don't have time to do. They have so many,
Hmm.
requests from people and queries. Once I got my PA, Laura, and all these other people started surrounding me, I realized I can do this with their help. So it's been going really well so far, and I want to keep it that way. I don't want all the work that we've all done. I don't want to sign something over to
Hmm.
someone else and let them take it from there. So I will remain with all my books. I will remain an indie self-published author. I just will.
Me too. And because of the freedom that there is in it, because of the control that you maintain, is it a lot of work? Yeah, it's a lot of work, especially before you can actually have other people, afford to pay other people or to bring other people on board. Like it's a lot of work, but there is nothing like that feeling of saying, I did that, and just the time that it takes to one query. Oh my gosh, I hated sending query letters. That was dreadful, because that process is so not cut and dry. Like it is so you send it to this guy, but then this lady wants it a different way, and that guy wants it a different way, and you're just like, come on, guys. Just for them to turn around and be like, never mind, no, thank you, and you're not good enough, and you know,
They give
um,
that feeling to us. They don't mean to, but
right?
we all walk away with that feeling.
Yes.
My story, because it's regional, it was so hard for someone in New York or somewhere else for someone to want to invest in it.
Mm.
But when you have people around you, and if you watch, we all have that. We all have people. It may be a small crowd or it might be a large group. You don't know. Those people invest in you, and if you can self-publish your book
Yes.
and put it out there and keep going, why wouldn't you want to keep going and celebrate with them? I don't want to sell out.
Yes. And
I
you know
don't want
what?
to sell out.
To each his or her own, right? If you want to
Right.
traditionally publish, if that is the route you feel you need to go, then by all means. But I will just tell it, like, I will be self-published forever. Let's do this.
I will too. And I support, like you said, I do. I support those who want to go
Hmm.
traditional and those who want to do it themselves. But what a feeling of doing it yourself, exactly like
Hmm.
you said.
Hmm.
You accomplish so much. It's kind of like you built a house, you built the roof, you did all that, and that's a lot of work.
And you choose who you surround yourself with, right? Like you
Yes.
choose the people as opposed to the ones who may be a little toxic and not worth, bringing into your bubble, or someone who, like you said, they don't know your region and therefore they're like, "Ah, that's not good enough." Well, that's because they don't understand you. They don't understand the heart of your work. They're in it for the dollar, which is, for the most part, not why most of us start writing, because there's not a lot of dollars to be had at the beginning.
Oh, you are so right, my friend.
But I am thankful for every penny that I have made because that means somebody has read my book and I will accept that. Thank you,
That's
universe, and thank you, Jesus.
That's right. You got it. You hit the nail on the head. I was talking to Laura, my assistant, and she told me, she said that most authors don't realize, and I didn't know this either, when you write a book, usually it's not till your second, even
Mhm,
your third, before you start to see money come in. And I didn't
mhm,
know that. There's so many things we don't know. And if you surround yourself with people who know that are not toxic, that want to help you, that's
mhm.
how you learn. Otherwise, you don't know. You have these expectations that are not very
Yes.
realistic. I think something that I've noticed on social media, I've seen a lot of authors who, and I've been there, I have, who want to give up. They
Mm,
have their moments when they say, I can't do this anymore.
mhm,
And I think when we step back and realize, hey, look at everything I've done. Look at where I'm at.
mm,
I'm a lot farther than I was in the beginning. Then you have to realize it does take time.
mhm,
You just this is not a quick thing
mhm.
because people are not going to know you immediately. You have to market, you have to get it out there, and you have to do everything yourself, but you know your story. Who else better to push it, you know?
That is exactly right. And we get so caught up in we social media is the devil. Like it's such a useful tool, but it can be such a weapon as well because we log on and we see all of these books jumping out at us like we think they're one hit, like first time out the door they make the number one bestsellers list. Well, what we don't see is that authors struggle to get there, right? We don't see the comparison game they've played. We don't see the depression they've gone through. We don't see the number of times they've wanted to give up. All we see is their success. And so we start comparing our success or failures to their success, and we're like, I'm not good enough for this. And so we drop out. Like you have to keep going. You have to push through those feelings and stop the comparison game. Like imposter syndrome is a real thing. And for some reason, it's become even more apparent, I guess, through the use of social media. I know why. I say for some reason. I know why, because it's so readily available, and that's what we see. We only see the good in other people's lives and not the bad.
I agree. I agree with you 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we see. So I noticed, a friend of mine told me, you need to, this is how out of the loop I am. I'm sorry, I'm going to admit it. But hey, even if you're where I'm at, you just keep going, you'll get
Mm-hmm.
there, right?
Mm-hmm. That's right.
um, they told me you need to get on Book Talk. I asked Laura, we need to get me on Book Talk. She said, you're on TikTok. It is. And I said, oh, I didn't know that. Well, these people are selling their books big time on Book Talk.
Mm-hmm.
And I know some people don't like TikTok, and I understand that. And I'm not
Mm-hmm.
trying to encourage one side
Right.
over the other. I'm certainly not. But it's just an example of how we see this. And it was advertised. I think I saw it on Yahoo the other day too. If you go here, you can really promote your book. You can really do this. There's so many people that we see who are number one with their books, but we don't have the backstory, just like you
Mm-hmm.
said. And
Mm-hmm.
we need their backstory. We need to hear those negative moments because we all go through them and we're not
Yes.
hearing them. There's nothing wrong with hearing that story. We have to hear that, you know?
Yes. How much sweeter is the success? I think it was Emily Dickinson, like success is counted sweeter by those who ne'er succeed. Like those of us who struggle, like when we hit that success mark, like it is so much sweeter. It's so much nicer too. Like I'm gonna cheer for that underdog. Like they've had a rough go of it and then they come out on top. I'm like, yeah, buddy, you're my man, um, but you're right. Like well, I was telling somebody the other day, I walked into Books a Million Friday evening and like the first four shelves, it's hashtag book talk romance, hashtag book talk, like all these things that book talk has influenced and all these books that are out there because they were made popular on book talk. And here's the thing, like I've read a lot of those books. Like I looked at them and I went, I've read a lot of those. And you know what? they didn't all get 4 and 5 stars from me. It was a matter
Yeah.
of, yeah, it became popular on social media because they saw this author living the best life now. And I'm like, I'm not digging at those authors. I'm just saying that
No, no.
it might have been, I would like to know the person behind the book, honestly, a little more, and cheer for them and not just their book,
Well,
but
I agree. I mean, we've got to, I think we need to reward, and I'm not sure how to say this without offending
mhm,
anyone, because I'm certainly not trying to, but reward the authors who their writing is amazing,
mhm,
that they've struggled, they've worked hard. Let's hear their backstory, not to say those that are on Book Talk that are promoted are not, that shouldn't be
right,
there. They should
right.
be, but there's also other stories that other books we need to focus on too. And I'm just wondering if some of that too is because of the because we're self-publishing. And I'm just wondering how we can further get our books out there. I mean, right now we know it's social media. Do you think that's the only, I mean,
I
is,
know.
is
I wish if I had the answer for one, you and I would be some wealthy people right now. If we could just
I
come up
think
with the answer right now, let's do it right now.
I think you're right.
I, I think that I think it's crucial for us. And this is a conversation I had with somebody several weeks ago that I just keep toying around in my head. Like, we as self-published indie authors, like, we have to create a community in which we can support one another. And that's kind of, this, what I'm doing here, this platform is mostly, I call it for creatives, but I come at it from an author standpoint. Most of the people I talk to are authors, or have something to do with writing and publishing. I mean, I know there are other creatives out there who want their art out there, and so this can relate to them as well. But we have to create our own community, our own network, and lift each other, promote each other, to put each other's work out there. Now, granted, this was the other flip side of that conversation that I had. How do you know whose work is worth putting out there? So we have to invest. Like, we're going to have to buy the book, or check, Kindle the book, or whatever the case may be. Like, whatever, however you get your book, we're going to have to read it and put it through the ringer. But if you find somebody who is worth investing in, give them to the world. Let the world see their work. We just have to be willing to put them out there because we know the struggle and how hard it is to get ourselves out there.
I agree. I agree 100%. And wouldn't it be amazing if we could come out with an indie talk, like TikTok, indie talk? It's just a thought.
Let's start
I
it.
don't know.
Hashtag indie talk. Let's do it. Let's start it.
Well, okay, let's do it and get it out there. And I
Mm-hmm.
agree. And like you said, I don't know how a lot of people do their stuff. I mean, as far as giving their backstory, because the backstory is important when you're
Mm-hmm.
talking about your work. I have a blog on my website. I don't know if people still read blogs. I know it was popular at one time.
Mm-hmm.
On mine, I tell the backstory of
Nice.
who I am. I have conversations between Bob and I even tell funny, embarrassing stuff about him when I can't think of anything else to talk about.
Always material available.
Always something to write about. That's right. So I agree with you. I think we you know, get that group together. And I know there are groups, I understand that, but we need more of them. And
Mm-hmm.
we need inspiring talks and conversations. We need a website where we can say, hey, check this out. And like you
Yeah.
said, even if you have to put a book through the ringer and everything, it might be helping. It's only
Mm-hmm.
helping to get people maybe where they want to be with their work.
Yes, and that is literally the whole basis of this platform is, conversations and collaboration, like being able to connect the right people with the right people and forming that community. Like, that's my heart. That is my goal. I love writing. I love my books that I'm working, I've got several in the works, and I love that whole process, but I love the people behind the books more. I love the people behind the scenes more. Like, I want us all to connect and to find our family, because this is one of those journeys that, like we have said, you have to have other people in your corner, in your community. And this is the best way I know how to get out there, get the word out there, and to pull people in and be like, all right, now you're mine.
That's right. You're part of it. Well, if there
Mhm.
is any thing that I can do as far as true crime, helping others who are interested in even
Yes.
nonfiction, I would not mind at all helping
Yeah.
in any way if someone wants to collaborate or they
Nice.
have questions. I think if we can, like you said, get some other authors on board who maybe can help other authors who are trying to step into this world and maybe just need that encouraging word. I would
Yes.
love to be a part of that. I feel like I already am
Mhm.
because we need to have this talk. It's important.
Yes. Yes. And like I said, all of your stuff's going to be in the show notes. And so people can then go to the show notes and be like, I'm reaching out to her right now. And they can contact you directly because that's great that and especially that you've said, hey, this is what I'm willing to offer. This is what I have to offer. Like, I love that because sometimes we get a little, especially as artists, we get a little closed off and we want to hold on to our art, and I know it's sometimes it feels selfish to say it, but it's true. Like, I like to hold it close to the vest, but if you've got something to offer, by all means, put it out there. I think you will find the returns even greater.
Well, I agree. And if it hadn't been for people offering their to help me along the way, I wouldn't be here. And it
Oh,
and
yeah.
it was just a group of people, just people I didn't even expect to reach out and
Mm.
help me. So I'm willing to give that back because if
I
it
love
hadn't
it.
been for others, I'd still be sitting here trying to figure out, well, no, wait a minute, what's going on with this? And why are these people still committing crimes? So,
Exactly. Like, we need people, we need each other. And that's kind of been what we're trying to get the point across today, is that we can't do this alone. This is not a solo act. And I
right.
said this the other day, even solo acts have bands to back them up. Like, somebody is going to put the music out there for those solo artists. Like, you've got to have people in your corner and form that community.
Well,
So
you
with
do, yeah. I mean,
Yes.
if you don't have them, then it's not going to be as successful as you want it to be. You got to
Mhm.
have them, yeah.
That's right. And how much more fun is it to have the people around you? Like, to me, and I'm one of those people that I could stay home all day long and be perfectly fine. Like, if I never saw people and this was the only way I really saw people, I'd be okay with that. But at the same time, how much better do I feel when I am surrounded by the people that love me and that I love as well? Like, there's just something about making those connections that can make a huge difference in your mental health, in your physical health. Like, it's science for one thing, but it it's healthy to have people around you. Maybe not all the time, because some of us have our limits, but
That's, I know. I know exactly what you mean. But yeah, those people, we have to have them in our lives because they
Mhm.
encourage us. They may make us mad enough to want to take the next step, or they may push us
Mhm.
into, going one step further. They make us they cause us to they we challenge ourselves
Yes,
when we have those individuals around us.
absolutely, absolutely. So, what one piece of advice or encouragement would you want to leave our listeners with today?
Well, I would say after everything I've been through, it was very difficult for me to continue on, but it was worth it.
Mm,
And if you have a project, if you have something that you want to do, you foresee it, but you're just not sure how to make it happen, make time, even if it's just a few minutes a day,
mm,
invest in that because you don't know that you might not be the next big author or your story might not touch someone that needs to hear it. So, and or if you're a musician or if you're,
mhm.
whatever creative you are, if there is something in your heart that you feel you need to do it and push through those barriers.
Mm.
If I hadn't to push through them, I don't know. My book probably wouldn't be out. So the words of advice I have, if you have something on your mind that you want to do, whatever you have to do to make it happen, just do it.
That is fantastic. And it's not as hard as it sounds. Like, just take the first step and then the next step, and then it gets a lot easier to take the step after that.
That's right. That's right.
Mhm.
One step can make a big difference. It's putting
Absolutely.
you closer to it instead of, farther away from it. Yeah.
Exactly. Pepper Ann, thank you so much for just taking the time out of your schedule to be here and to have this conversation. Like, one, it has just been a pleasure to get to know you and just to talk to you. Like, I know that whatever is in the works for you in the future, like whether you even know about it or not, like it's going to be fulfilling and successful. Like that is my prayer for you. And I hope that you'll keep me as part of your network and that we can stay in touch because I love you. Like you're like the best ever.
Absolutely. Yes, yes. I'm just so honored that you extended the invitation to me today. And
Yes.
I do want to come back and you are
Yes.
already in my little group. So
Yay.
yes. Yeah,
That
you're
is
part of it.
awesome. I love it. Thank you. And to all of you listening, remember that the most compelling stories are often the hardest ones to write. And it's okay to stumble and to struggle along the way, but never give up. Just keep pushing through those obstacles and the challenges because the world needs to hear your story. And the journey may be difficult and the end result may be hard to come by, but it's going to be worth it. Like every drop of sweat, every tear that you shed, just believe in yourself and your ability to overcome any of those hurdles that you might face, and just let perseverance be that driving force that propels you towards success. And in the meantime, go be creative, be authentic, and make an opportunity to create some new authentic connections.